Jambo and good morning. It's a wonderful day. I'm happy. My name is Philbert July. I will be hosting the Ready to Work webinar this morning. I am very excited because I have a very good panel that we will be unpacking the subject of money. This has been made possible by the Ready to Work platform. What is Ready to Work? Ready to Work is an online platform that is offered by Absa Bank Kenya PLC that helps young people who are transitioning from the world of education into the world of work, and it equips you with 4 skills: money skills, which is what we will be talking about today, entrepreneurship skills, people skills, and work skills. So looking forward to have a very interactive session with you. And before we go ahead, I would want us to just have a look at some ground rules that will guide us in this conversation. Number 1, all the attendees will be muted throughout the session, so you'll not be able to talk back at me. Today's webinar is being recorded, and the link will be shared with you after the event. It will also be available on the Absa Bank Kenya YouTube page. You're welcome to revisit the content as well as share the same with your friends and colleagues. There will be a polling which we will conduct during the course of this session. We really value your feedback, and so we look forward to you sharing your feedback with us. Please use the chat box to ask as many questions as possible and that you may have to either myself or my set of panelists or to Absa. And we will be surely looking at them and giving you the necessary responses. Now, before we go ahead, I have a question for you. You know, they say that money is the opposite of weather, that nobody talks about it, but everybody does something about it. I don't know what your experience is, but I want you to share with me one word, and I'll give you 30 seconds to do that. One word that describes your relationship, your current relationship with money. If you are very spontaneous in spending, tell me that. If you're a big investor, you're saving a lot, tell me that. Whatever your relationship is, one word, I'd really appreciate. I'll sample a few of your comments even as we start the session. Now, 30 seconds, you have 30 seconds. Please share your comment with us. One word that describes your current relationship with money. Would be happy to sample a few of your comments, even as we start the session. Keep the comments coming. Keep the comments coming. Thank you. I continue to receive your comments, and please keep them coming. I have a comment from one Angela. She's saying 50-50. I don't know what 50-50 means. Angela will tell us maybe in the chat section. We also have Ida, who has sent a comment. She says spendthrift. I so identify with you, Ida. Spendthrift. What is that one word that describes your current relationship with money? Now, we will start our conversation, and I want to take this wonderful opportunity to introduce my panelists. On my extreme right, the first panelist on the session is Caroline Wambugu. Caroline Wambugu is a colleague here at Absa Bank Kenya PLC. She is the head of finance decision support. Caroline has a lot of experience, over 18 years. She also serves as a deacon at Christ is the Answer Ministries, and she is the church treasurer there. She also serves in the board of Absa, Kenya Insurance Agency, where she serves as the chief finance officer. Has a wealth of experience. She's a mother. Of course, she manages her family finances, and she'll be talking to us about those different pots. Caroline, would you say hi to everyone who is watching this?
Yeah, thank you very much, Philbert, and good morning, guys. I'm very excited to be here with you today. Happy to have this conversation on money matters with yourselves. I mean, this is something I know you need, so definitely to understand it better will be our pleasure to take you through that. So thank you for tuning in. Let's have fun as we discuss money. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caroline Wambugu. That is our first panelist. Just next to her, on my right still, is a gentleman called Eric Asuma. Eric Asuma is the co-founder and CEO of Hisa Technologies and the Kenyan Wall Street. He is an experienced entrepreneur, and he has a demonstrated history of delivering technology solutions. He worked as an intern a while back with the Nairobi Securities Exchange, went ahead to work with the Submiller in South Africa in 2015, where he helped them to automate their HR system. He then came back to Kenya to establish that Wall Street Limited, and co-founded also the Hisa Technologies that disseminates business information. I am very excited to be hosting Eric, and I would want Eric to say hi to all of you.
Hi everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. Looking forward to chatting matters, money, investing, and finance and technology. Also happy to be among such an esteemed panelist. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric. And my last but not least, Sheba Njagi, who is the head of learning and innovation at Centonomy. I am sure you've heard about Centonomy. She'll tell us maybe about that. Sheba is an ICF Associate Certified Coach who inspires individuals as well as businesses to create wealth. She has immense experience. She wears many kofiyas. She does a lot of trainings. She is also entrepreneur, and she will be talking about her experience and her interaction with money. Sheba, would you say hi to all who are following this conversation?
Hi guys, I'm about to say welcome to our channel. But I'm really, really excited to be here and to have this Ready to Work conversation. And it's exciting also talking about money, because money is something that we are always dealing with. It's a key tool. So let's get talking.
Thank you very much. It's so wonderful to have all of you. Welcome and feel free. And I think as we start this conversation, I want us to have one simple question that we can just deliberate on. And the question is, why is it important to have conversation about money in this day and age? Why is it important? I don't want to point at you. I want you to volunteer. Why is it important?
Yeah, so maybe I'll go fast on this one. So money is a key resource. It's a necessary tool that we all need to do life. And so definitely to understand what to do with this money, to understand how to deal with it, to understand how to manage it and how to navigate our life with it is important. And thus the subject on money skills that then becomes such a necessary skill for everybody to have, because everybody needs money. That's why we all pursue it through the various work engagements that we get involved in, be it whether you are an entrepreneur or you are employed, you all are looking for money. So understanding how it works, what it can do for you, and how you can make it grow is definitely very critical. We call it financial literacy. So I trust that you'll enjoy this discussion, because it's all about you, because money is a key necessary resource for all of us.
There you have it, from Caroline Wambugu herself, financial literacy. Very important for us to be having this conversation about money. I don't know what your take is, Mr. Eric.
Interesting. I think money gives you freedom. And you know, in the world that we live in currently, money makes things move. Life becomes much easier and simpler when you have that freedom to generally do things, make decisions with regards to purchasing, make decisions with regards to family, business, and generally life in general.
Thank you for that input, Eric. Sheba, centonomy. Yes, tell us. Why is it important to discuss money?
Because money, you know, we've had money makes the world go round.
Yeah.
And we know, money is also a tool for exchanging value. You know that nice dress you saw the other day, and the first thing you checked it out after seeing how it looked, it's how much it cost. One of us was probably checking out a mobile phone that we liked. One of the most important things after looking at the features is how much it costs. So money conversation is a very important aspect, and especially when you're young, it's the best time because, feel bad. We also say, money, time is money. So if we start talking early about money right now, we are able to take advantage of all the time that we have. You can imagine if you're 16 or 17 right now, it's important for us to start talking about money right now so that by the time you're 27 or 30 something, you can say, I did something cool with my money, or some decisions I made about my money back in the day. So it's a really important thing.
Very important conversation. You can hear from my panel here. Very important conversation for us to talk about the subject of cash, the subject of money. Now, I know you are telling me that one word. I continue to receive your comments, and I want to encourage you to continue to share those comments. That one word that describes your current relationship with money. And as you do that, I want us to begin the conversation. And I would be directing this question to Caroline Wambugu. In her profile that I shared with her, she's the head of finance at Absa bank here. She helps with actually business decisioning, advises the business on what to do. She's the treasurer at Sitam Ministries. She's also a wife, so that tells you she manages the family finances. She's a mother. And many other hats that she wears. I'm sure she must be running a business on the side. All these pots, Caroline Wambugu, how do you handle all these pots?
Yeah, talk of being spotlighted. So the way I look at it really, and I'll try and simplify it for you as much as possible, is that it doesn't really matter the responsibilities that you carry. Yes, you will have all these hats that you wear at maybe even sometimes at different seasons of your life. But what really does matter at the end of the day, regardless of the responsibilities, is that the disciplines of money do not change. So whichever sphere you find yourself in, whichever role you find yourself at, whatever hat you wear at the various seasons of your life, there are 4 key disciplines. At least I talk of 4 key disciplines, which I think are critical for you to be able to have an ease or some ease with the conversations around money and help you pursue your goals. And I'll detail them out for you just quickly, and please, take them down. So the first one for me is budgeting as a lifestyle. Yeah, so that's one of the 4, one of my key money disciplines. So budgeting as a lifestyle, saving as a habit, investments as your growth enabler, and lastly, which I love the most, which I think is what all of us, especially as young people, need to take care of, delayed gratification as your spending philosophy. So I think if you apply these 4 disciplines, as I have in my life and still do, you will definitely have a lot of ease dealing with money. You will definitely make great strides towards, as my panelist said, financial freedom. So I trust as we go along, we'll try and dice those a little bit more. Thanks.
Wow. Budgeting as a lifestyle, saving as a habit, investment as a growth enabler, and delayed gratification as your spending philosophy. I have taken my notes. I don't know about you. Very, very quickly, when we talk about financial freedom, and this goes to Sheba, everyone wants to have financial freedom, where you can make a decision on the things you want to spend on and be able to afford those things. And I think for me that is what we call financial freedom. I don't know if there's another definition. How do you attain financial freedom? Or what is financial freedom and how do you get there?
Financial freedom for me, and even what we usually talk about, and you're right, even in terms of your description, it's being able to live your life and afford all the things that you need comfortably, right? And it's very connected to wealth creation. And it's really about asking yourself, what is it that you desire to achieve in your life? You know, I know right now you could be feeling, I'm quite too young, or I'm very young, or I've just finished campus, or I'm getting into campus. But then when you start thinking about the people or looking at the people who are around you, maybe your parents, your grandparents, when you reach their age and you start thinking, when I reach their age, what are some of the things I would want to experience? Financial freedom is being in a position where you're building yourself to be able to afford the things that you desire in your life. So it is very, very important for us to define that and remember that. And it's also a process of wealth creation. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sheba. And I want to bring you back home. So my questions are a bit mixed up, as you can see, because I want to ensure that my panel is engaged throughout, and that is very intentional. We have this young man, Eric Asuma, who is a businessman in Kenya here, and he calls his business Wall Street. And I was reading about Wall Street, and I came across this on Wikipedia, that the term Wall Street has become a metonym for financial markets in the United States. And I was wondering, when you're, a metonym, by the way, is like something that is synonymous. Like when you mention Sheba, you think Centonomy as an example, because she is a real brand ambassador of that brand. So I don't know what was going on in his mind when he called his business the Kenyan Wall Street. Eric.
Interesting. So looking at back in terms of how all this began, my intention wasn't actually to create even a business. So used to hang out with my friends. We talk about investing in the stock market, investing in financial markets. At one time, I had the opportunity while I was in campus to go to the trading floor, and was very curious in terms of, by then it was more of like most our market wasn't really automated, that ability to buy and sell stocks online. But then while I was in campus, again, I had the opportunity, while I was studying, I had the opportunity to attend the AGMs, to attend company meetings, because I was curious about the market. Then at one time, I was privileged to have an opportunity to work at our local stock exchange. And then I saw people asking, people came in to ask, how can I buy shares? People asking, how can I get information about investing? And then at one time, I think while I was going to work, I took a bit of my time, tried to draft a few names that I thought would resonate very well with how do I disseminate some of this information that I had a privilege or I had access to. So I listed down a few names, then asked my friends, what name do you think resonates very well? And they chose the Kenyan Wall Street. And that's how it began. Basically was trying to put out information to my friends first, then it grew exponentially that it wasn't something that I also intended even to do. So was doing it as a hobby even after I left the exchange. 2 years down the line, that's when I said, look, it's a product then, because it's more of how do I formalize this, because there were a number of people that wanted to partner with us, and that's how it grew.
All right. Thank you for that insight. I think it helps young people out there as you begin to think about getting into the world of business, on how you can begin to actually coin a name for your biashara. I have a question for Sheba that is coming from one of our audiences, and she's asking, money gives freedom, as Eric said, but it can also result in bondage. What is the difference?
Oh yeah, I really like that. And I want to refer to something Caroline mentioned about money, and she said money is a resource. As we continue with our life, something very important we need to be reminding ourselves is money is a tool. And even somewhere in the Bible, it says the love of money is a root cause of all evil. And I always like telling people in class, it's not money that is a root cause of all evil. It's the excessive love of money. So what I would say is, why is money sometimes a bondage? Money is a bondage sometimes when we make the wrong decisions in our lives. For example, and I know we'll be talking about that later, when you go and borrow a loan or take money so that you can buy a mobile phone for your own, just so that you can be able to keep up with your friends. Or when you go to borrow some money from a mobile money agent so that you can be able to go on a date or even buy some drink somewhere. So what is happening and why it's going to become or send you to bondage is because you are removing money from your pocket to pay extra money to the place where you borrowed from, which is not a good thing to do. So yes, it is freedom if you are able to use it for the things that Eric mentioned, which was really all about buying some stocks, or investing in other businesses, or even putting in some fixed accounts where you can save up some of your money. But when you start now getting into loans, what happens is you start getting into a cycle of debt and cycle of bondage. And also another thing that can cause money to be an area or something that brings you to bondage is when you start living based on other people's opinions.
On that line of thought, this next question goes to Caroline Wambugu. And there's a quote here by Will Smith that says, too many people spend money they haven't earned to buy things they don't want, to impress people they don't like. And the question is, when you started your life, because we're talking to young people, most of them are finishing campus or have finished campus and they're just beginning their first jobs. When you started earlier on in your life, what did you do with your first salary?
Yeah, very interesting question there, down memory lane. It's true. And I guess it comes also with how you've been socialized. But I guess for all of us, let's be honest about it. There are those things that you desire. There are those things that you feel you want. And the people around you, parents and guardians, always seemingly put a stop check for you so that, and at the time, you don't think or you don't know that they're actually helping you to shape your money relationships at that young age, as you come up in life. At the time, we see as if they are blockers. They don't want us to have the things that we want. We have our friends, our peers who have these kind of things that we don't necessarily have, and we desire to have them. So yes, it's true that sometimes you find that our money habits would be shaped by external forces or external environment, as it were. And so specifically to answer this question of what I did with my first salary, I must first and foremost tell you, truly, it was liberating. I felt freedom at last, something to my name. At last I am getting my money. This one belongs to me. So I do with it, I don't know whether that was financial freedom, but I do with it what I want to do with it. And for sure, after I had deducted the necessaries, the tithe, the bills, the food, the rent, the remainder went into buying me some good clothes, some good shoes. I had freedom at last, or so I thought. But that's actually what I did with my money. But now that we are talking to you guys and we are where we are at today, looking back, I would definitely have made better decisions with that first salary. And that is what I want us to take into account today. That with the information I have today, with the skills that I have garnered over time in this subject called money, I would definitely have made better decisions had I known what I know today then. Think about it. I don't know how much you spend for lunch. You could be campus going, you could have started working, but I don't know how much you spend for lunch or for parties or for that drink out with a friend or even parking if you have a car and things like that. But think about it. 300 shillings. If you purposed, because money decisions must be intentional. If you purposed to put aside 300 shillings every day, working days, 26 days in a month, and multiply that by a year, you will have a cool about 93,600 by the end of just 12 months. 300 shillings, purposefully and intentionally set aside. And as you grow, because you will grow, your businesses will flourish, your employment, you will get promotions, you keep increasing that amount. 10 years down the line, won't we be calling you a millionaire? I mean, what does a millionaire mean, isn't it? So truly, truly, had I made different decisions back then with the information I have today, let's just say, you never know. But I guess I would be very fat today, but thanks.
All right, so that tells me that some of the things we are learning, Caroline has accumulated with the wisdom in many years. When she said saving as a habit, it was not there, but it's something that you have to cultivate. And my next question goes to Eric, and I want us to get a little bit real. You know, yes, I know we are here, but we must have made mistakes, right, Eric? Yeah. What are some of the mistakes that you have made with money?
I've made several mistakes. Yeah. I think the first mistake one of the mistakes that bites me to this day around money is in my first business that I did while I was I think I was a first year or second year in campus. I went into entrepreneurship. So by then I thought, look, the government had brought a program called Youth Access to Government Opportunities, YAGPO. So by then, we were told, look, it's easier for you as a young man to get some of these opportunities in your counties. So I remember what I did by then. I used to attend some of these government meetings, go meet people, because we were told, look, if you go to some of these meetings, you'll meet the people that actually make decisions with regards to giving you such opportunities. So did a few small tenders then. At one time, someone told me to travel back to my county to go meet MCS so that I could get an opportunity, attend opportunity. So I think I remember what I did then. I left my classes, traveled overnight towards my county. I met the MCS, a group of 3 people. They promised me, look, this tender is worth this much. What will do, look, for us to give you this tender or for us to approve this tender, you must give us a cut-off, I think around 20%. And they told me, because for us to give you this tender, first you have to give that money in advance. So what I did, I called my aunts, I called my parents, told them, look, I have this opportunity. It's a clear opportunity, like it's a low-hanging fruit. Why don't you lend me this money so that once we get this tender, I'll be able to repay back. And at the same time, you are the ones who will be able to supply these goods that they needed. I borrowed some money from my parents and my aunts, and it was a total mess. After I gave them the money, nothing was signed yet. That's how they got lost with the money, and that's how I decided, look, this is not something for me. I'd rather look for something that I think I'm very passionate about. And that's how I got into probably I wanted to learn about the markets, because I had that interest, yes, but I said, look, why don't I spend most of my time to try learn about the markets or something that's close to me or close to my heart, then probably I can build a business out of it. And essentially, that's one of the mistakes that I made. Some other mistakes, I think about 2 years ago, one more mistake. I bought a huge car. I think I used to spend the amount that the car, because it was a second-hand car, I used to spend a lot of money going to the garage, every time it broke down, the mechanic would call me, Eric, we need some money. So I think the amount of money that I spent on that particular car about 2 years ago was, I think, nearly 2 times the money that I bought the car. So those are some of the mistakes that I'll clear, that I think I wish I would have done things differently. Like when it comes to, say, building wealth or building money, start small. Things like first, it's about how do I put in effort, more time, then earn for it, instead of spending money first before you, and expecting returns before you put in the time, effort. Yes.
Wow. Very, very eye-opening examples right there from Eric. And I, on the same breath, mistakes you made in your 18 to 25. I'm not saying you're old, Sheba. I want you to share the mistakes so that we can, all of us can learn from those.
I hear you. I hear how you're saying I'm old, but it's fine. Mistakes I made, quite a number as well. I remember when I was, one key mistake, especially when I was around 16, when you're in school, because I was just thinking about when did I actively start experiencing money, getting some money in my pocket. And I remember in school I was very clever. Philbert said entrepreneur. And what do entrepreneurs do? They look for opportunities. Entrepreneurs are usually looking for problems and then they solve the problems. So one of the things I used to do in high school is I used to sell biscuits. Once you get your, I used to get some, what is it called? Pocket money from my parents every term. And once I get it, I would then go and buy the carton. You remember the carton of biscuits back in the day, House of Manji cartons of biscuits? And do you know what was interesting? The entrepreneur I am, I would buy them at 280 bob. And once I sell all those biscuits, I'd get about 600 bob, or about 580 shillings. That was so exciting. So what I would do, the challenge and the mistake I used to make back then, but now I know different, is as soon as I would make my profit, I'd hide the money somewhere in the box and then say, you know what, I'll save it until when we go back home on closing day, and put it in, back then, a piggy bank. You remember where I used to put money in a piggy bank? Let me tell you, Caroline talked about habits. That money never used to see the light of day. I would find a way somehow in the middle of the school term and find myself going to dip my hand into that school box and go and buy what we used to call back in the day in my high school, ngumus and biscuits and samosas and things like that. So what would I do different? To be honest, I would build that habit of putting that money aside. If I'd said I'd put it in the piggy bank, I would actually put it in a piggy bank and actually save it. I think by now I'd be, what Caroline was saying, a millionaire. I think I'd be there. Some other mistakes I made when I was younger, especially when I was in my 20s. I have always been someone who looks for opportunities, biashara here, biashara there. But one mistake I did, and I am learning from at the moment, is the art of being patient. So what usually used to happen, I remember running a business where I used to buy utensils, plates, cups, spoons, in a place in Nairobi called Kamukonji. So when you go to Kamukonji, you're able to buy these things also at a deal, and then now you can go and start selling to people. And it was good profits as well. And I think I got tired. I think I was feeling like, yes, I was making profits, but I think I wanted to see millions immediately. You see that instant gratification. I wanted to see hundreds of thousands in my account, and it wasn't happening. So I was just like, that Kamukonji business, I don't think that is going to work. Someone introduced me to something, a project somewhere in Dubai. Now, buying even better utensils and maybe probably sell to high-end people like Madam Caroline. So there I went, started shipping things in, importing, and I really had not done the numbers. One thing we are told when you start a business, it doesn't matter what age. I think I was about 22 when doing these things. Don't be so fixated on in the right way. And just a couple of years ago, you mentioned 2 years ago, Eric, even 2 years ago, I also made a mistake. I was running a very good business, and then I made a few mistakes of not working with the right people. You see how Eric is talking about he went to some meetings with county people. It's also good when you start a business and when you're running a business, you partner with the right people, you also serve the right clients, and you also work with the right suppliers. That way you are all in an understanding so that you don't find yourself taking loans that are not unnecessary, or I used to find myself also undercharging because I did not understand key aspects of costing my business. So these are some of the mistakes I made, feel bad, but now with all the information I have been able to improve and start getting better, and I'm really happy that we are having this conversation right now in your age, so that you're able to kickstart properly, with people who are experienced.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing those lessons. I think we learn from the people who have gone before us so that we don't have to make the same mistakes that they made. And I have a question for Caroline Wambugu. I want to couple it with a question that has been asked by Calvin Kariuki, so you will find a way of mixing and giving us an appropriate answer. So Calvin says this: I opened my account back in 2017, and money has been going in and out. But some few days ago, I went to ask for a loan, but I was told no. And he's wondering why. So that is a question for Calvin that's related to banking. I have a statement here that was issued by a gentleman called Al Wilson, and he said that if you think nobody cares, if you are alive, try missing a couple of car payments. Yeah, when you do, you will actually understand that people care, and they will check whether you are alive or you're gone. And the question that follows that is very specific to you, Caroline. Buying a car, I was reading a story of a young man who just got a job the other day, and he really wants to hit the road running with a new machine. I don't know at what time did you bought your car? What are some of the considerations you made? I don't know at what point you bought one. I want you to share your personal experience. Then we see whether this young man can learn.
Yeah, thanks, Hubert, for that. Just remind me the name again of
Calvin.
The young person.
Calvin.
Okay, Calvin.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Calvin, thank you so much for that question. I hope as I go along, you get some answers from this. Yes, buying a car. Remember the story I gave of what I perceived to be freedom, in the sense that I was now earning a paycheck at the end of every month. And like my two panelists, Sheba and Eric, I am not so entrepreneurship. So I have sort of relied, on my job to earn my upkeep. So I've been in the employment sector for my whole working life. And I guess that's one of my mistakes. Maybe I need to dig a little bit deep on other opportunities from a side hustle, but that's a story for another day. But yes, the minute I was able to buy a car, and by ability here, I'm talking about the fact that I've been working in the banking sector most of my career. So we do have, of course, access to loans as staff. And so, of course, there's an eligibility criteria. So the minute I was able to buy my first car, we went ahead and took one. But the interesting part, now that it's a true story, and I have to keep to my to my word, that car lasted 6 months. And I'll tell you in a short while why. It was very exciting because the reason behind buying the car, I must also admit, was more for looks. It was more for appearances. It was more like a nice thing to have because, hey, hello, I'm a banker, right? So now that you have the platform to get this car loan, why not? And of course, in terms of eligibility, which I guess is what Calvin is talking to in terms of why is he being appraised when you look at your statement and you don't qualify, you know. So I did qualify and got it. But the reason it only took 6 months with my family to have that vehicle and sell it was because after buying the vehicle, which I thought was a good idea at the time, and remember I had worked for a while, so I was already interacting with money and learning these money skills. That's why you need to learn from us so that you try and ensure you don't make the mistakes we did. I had a conversation with a senior colleague in the bank who mentioned in passing, which caught my attention, though she mentioned it in passing, that I was also eligible for a mortgage. And I was like, okay, that doesn't sound like a bad idea. So when I did my homework, I went and dug a little bit more detail to just understand my eligibility for this mortgage. My salary was small, so I couldn't have both at the same time. So we had to make some very critical decision as a family. So now that we can have both, which one takes priority? And we decided, because in life you will have to live somewhere. You have to pay rent. Then it goes without saying that mortgage carries the day, that it was the better decision. And that is how come 6 months down the line, my vehicle even had a tattoo behind the screen. I mean, we were so excited for this new car. Yeah. We had to actually sell it so that now we can be able to be eligible for a mortgage. And so that was why we sold it in 6 months. But it was quite exciting, short period, quite exciting. But I think getting a mortgage was indeed a better idea. And so we bought our first home. I think I was 26 years at the time, owning our first home. And that was really good. Now, there are various considerations that you put at play. And I guess that's why we are having this very honest conversation. And as you've heard from my fellow panelists, at the end of the day, and I think somebody spoke about, you know, the money becoming a burden. So it can give you the freedom, but it can also tie you down. The decisions you make around money will be critical. So don't take loans for non-generating activities, non-income generating activities. Buying a car, a vehicle for personal use, which does not generate anything, you know, may not be the best of ideas. Of course, as Absa, for example, we will definitely give you, you know, the vehicles on loan. But my prayer is that you will ensure that you're targeting the kind of vehicles that will also be useful to generate you some income, so that you can be able to use that, the cash flows coming through that income you're generating, to repay this loan. The minute you repay the first one and we start seeing your credit history with us, you know, to answer also Calvin's question, then you start forming that relationship with a bank like Absa to even get more. So unfortunately, some of us run to getting loans or, you know, or credits that do not necessarily go into something that generates income for you. And so you start getting stuck. Because remember, money is earned. So the fact that you've gotten a loan, which is very good because a loan accelerates your journey towards that financial freedom, your journey towards wealth creation. Ensure that then the loans are also productive so that you can ensure that they're also helping you to pay back. So I would advise you, if you're getting money, be it for a personal loan, let it be also for something constructive so that it can help you in your journey of wealth accumulation, wealth creation. But I think those are some of the things to always consider, and also priority, like what I've just mentioned. It was nice to have a vehicle, but of course, the mortgage opportunity. So again, look at opportunities around you and see what do you need to invest in so that those opportunities also turn out for your good. Because remember, it is a process. Today, you don't have that car. You've heard from Eric. He has that big one now. You know, it's a process. You will definitely get to a point, like I later did, you know, that we actually did also get a vehicle for the family much later as the incomes went increasing and things like that. So it's the money decisions that will help you to make the right decisions so that you can ensure you are growing your shilling. Every shilling is a seed. Grow it.
Every
shilling is a seed, grow it. Up close and personal from Caroline Wambugu. Every shilling is a seed, grow it. I think that's a very powerful nugget that I carry. I want to ask a question, Eric, you know. What would you advise your 16-year-old younger self, you know, looking back? Or what is that one thing that you would want those young people watching this webinar today to carry about finances?
What I would advise my younger self, a lot. I think, of course, I've made a lot of mistakes. But then the key is, how do I start investing much earlier? Learning about financial markets, learning about investing. How do I, generally how to start small. There's something in the market called the power of compounding interest. When you start, looks very little. But I think after time, that sort of compounding interest, if you are consistent in your investing journey, after a particular period of time or after a very long time, you'll come to understand, look, I began at a very lower stage, but then it grows and then makes your money work for you. So the other thing is, I think to start looking at opportunities at a much earlier age. I think I was very lucky because I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. So my mom used to take me generally to help her run the businesses and all that. So I was very lucky early in my career. So even while I was from high school to campus, did a few other things. But then I was very keen about I was very keen about not to get, there's a time I think I got into a loan with a bank, and that wasn't a good experience for me because I took it for personal things. But then the thing is, the advice that I will give young people, even myself looking back, is I wish I could have started saving much earlier and investing much earlier and try put part of my income on a monthly or on a regular basis towards something that, towards investing or something that probably I'll be able to look back, I'll be able to turn back towards when things are not good.
I want to ask you a follow-up question. And I think you've touched on something that reminds me of my days back in campus. I remember attending financial literacy discussions, I think 2 or 3 times, and I could not get a thing about financial markets and stocks, and I ended up finishing my 4th year in campus without doing any investment. If I look back, I think I would have made different decisions. Should I have, if I understood what they were talking about, because they were talking about those things you've said of let your money work for you, compound interest, in a simple language to that young person who is watching out there. What is compound interest, and what are some of the financial markets and stock opportunities do I have as a young person, you know, who is making 200 there, 500 there, that I can begin to grow my investments or my savings immediately?
Okay, look at it this way. You either start a business or you invest in a business. So in the simplest way, when you don't have, let's say, the amount of money, the experience, or the knowledge to start a business, the stock market gives you an opportunity to invest in a business that you think you own part of a business. I'll give a very, very basic example, which is Absa, where we are today. So Absa is a bank. It's a listed company at our local stock exchange. Absa is also listed across other markets where they operate. Assuming you wanted to start a bank, it's extremely difficult because of the regulatory requirements, the amount of money that you need. But then look at it this way. You think that the banking sector will perform very well the next few years. Or you want to own a bank and you don't have this large amounts of money. The stock market allows you to own a piece of a business. So if you own 10 shares of a business of, let's say, Absa, you are an owner in that business in terms of you are a shareholder. So in a way, If the share price appreciates, you get something called capital gains. If Absa makes good revenues, good profits, they usually declare something called dividends. Part of their profits they declare to shareholders, telling them, look, thank you for supporting us and being part of investing in us. They declare part of that profit as dividends to its shareholders. Assuming you invested amount X, say 1,000 shillings in Absa, the economy performs very well, and you anticipate that, look, the economy is going to perform, it's going to perform very well, and it performs very well. Businesses are thriving. The banking sector, of course, will thrive when other businesses thrive. That means that the demand for that share price will go up. So which means when the share price goes up, the amount that you invested in goes up, and you can be able to sell it at a later date, and it's much easier to liquidate. You know, compared to, let's say, most of other alternative assets, it's much easier to, let's say, liquidate your money or get your money out of the stock market compared to, let's say, land, property, and all that. But the thing is, if you can, the stock market also allows you to get access to different sectors of the economy. So it's something that that's very close to me. And what we have been doing at Kenyan Walls and HISA is generally to help to try build solutions to enable the normal man to be able to access the financial market in an easier way.
Eric is an expert in that space. He worked for the NSC, and he has some good understanding of investments. I have picked a nugget there that I would want to call out. He said, you either start a business or you invest in a business. He also said that stocks allow you to own a piece of a business. So if you are a young man out there who is looking at growing your savings, you have an opportunity to own a part of the businesses that you admire. So if you admire a big corporate in Kenya and it is listed in the Nairobi Securities Exchange, then you have an opportunity to own a piece of that organization. That is very, very empowering. I want to believe so. I have a question for Sheba from one of our listeners here. As I open my my phone, let me ask you this one first. You know, looking back, you know, you have grown. You've been an entrepreneur. You're even now teaching people about financial freedom. But looking back, what are some of the things you think these young people need to know matters finances, even as they charter their journey in this space?
Yeah. Number one, when it comes to money, or when it comes to building wealth, or getting yourself ready for wealth creation, I say, don't spend your time. Invest it, and invest it wisely. And each of us has said, you know what, if we were 16, 20 right now, with the information that we have, we would be more careful right now and start asking ourselves, and where will I invest these 60 shillings, these 1,000 shillings this month? So don't spend your time. Invest it, and invest it wisely. Another thing I like to talk about, especially in our campus edition program, I always say, sit down and look at what we call your non-financial assets. What are your non-financial assets? Let me break it down. Your non-financial assets are those gifts, those talents that you have been given. I call them your superpowers that you already have, that you need to start thinking about them and asking yourself, what can I do with the superpowers that I have been given as a gift by God in this case? What can I do with them to start generating an income? For example, am I good at writing? Or if I'm good at writing, can I send an email to Eric Asuma and tell him, you know what, I've seen your magazine, I've seen your publication the Kenyan Wall Street. I'd like to be one of your content contributors. Are you good at singing? Right? It doesn't mean you need to wait till you're 26 for you to start performing and eventually even start doing some tuition classes like this for people who want to learn how to do it. I have been seeing some very interesting YouTube channels of young people in Kenya. If you're good at cooking, how about you whip up a cookbook, for example, and save the rest of us who are really suffering in that area and start selling a little bit of something. What I'm saying is you have what we call non-financial assets that you can turn them into income generating aspects that can help you start buying assets. Another thing in your financial freedom, I say, it's time you realize there is opportunity in your expenses. And Caroline had mentioned it a little bit earlier. Start breaking down your expenses because you know there is an opportunity there. Are you eating very expensive food? Are you going to very expensive joints? You know what? There is no little money. 100 bob today and another 100 bob tomorrow. By the end of the week, that's 600 or 700 shillings. By the end of the month, okay, I don't know mathematics, but it's a good amount, probably 3,000 bob or so. You see, that's money you can either even start and give a chance at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Just to add on what Eric was saying, when I was in campus, how did I get to learn about stocks? There is this challenge that the Nairobi Securities Exchange runs in universities, and you can find out if it's still working. It is called the NSE Challenge. In fact, that is where I got to learn how to trade, and we were trading virtually. And one thing I learned, and I still do to date, is I realize and remind myself, Sheba, anything you buy, you can own. You get me? Anything you buy, you can own. For example, what do I buy a lot? Let me see what I bought today. I bought some airtime, right? So if I'm able to buy airtime every day, it's high time I start asking myself, which companies, which telcos are in the Nairobi Securities Exchange that I like, that I can even start investing in them. So that you don't miss out key opportunities that are available for you, and you start investing and taking advantage of the time that you have. So don't spend your time, invest it and invest it wisely. Please note the opportunities in your expenses. Is it possible for you to look at your expenses and reduce somewhere and then channel that into investments and start investing early? In fact, to add on what Eric was talking about, the compounding aspect, it also requires you to have a long-term view of your financial journey. For you to be financially free is not something I will wake up tomorrow and say, hurrah, I'm free. It means I need to have a long-term outlook with my life and with my finances. So it means I'm going to invest in a business on the Securities Exchange, or even I'm going to start a business, or even I'm going to say, I want to be employed, or I will be employed in company X, and I make sure I make good money and invest that money. So you're young right now. There are very many ways to kickstart your journey, and I believe you can do it, but you have to make that decision.
All right. Thank you, Sheba. And one more item that you mentioned that I want to call out is what are your non-financial assets, and how can you monetize those ones? So all of us have those natural gifts that God has given us that we can actually use to make extra income. There's a follow-up question for you, Sheba, that is coming from one of our listeners, and they're saying, we hear a lot that you cannot become wealthy through employment, and you need to create your own business to achieve real financial independence. Is that a myth or a fact?
That's a myth, and a very big myth. It's not a job or a business that helps you become wealthy. It is your income and what you do with that income. I'll give you an example. There are people who run businesses, they make money from the business, but don't do strategic things with that money that they have earned. They go and perambulate it in their cities and in their counties. What happens? They lose the opportunity that money could have gained them. There are some people also who are employed. They earn a good income or they earn income. They waste it. So those two people are one and the same thing. Truly, it's not about your employment or the business. Remember, those are your, what can I call them? They are your drivers. They are your enablers. A business that you run, a business that you work for is an enabler. In the end, what it gives you is an income. What you do with that income is what helps you on your wealth creation journey. So you know what? Select the one that works for you. There are some of us, we prefer to be employed. Others, we prefer to run our own businesses. As long as we make them and make them work well and give value, then we'll be good to go.
All right. Thank you, Sheba. I want this one to be taken by Caroline, and it's coming from Daniel Mwagawe. He's watching from Mombasa. He's saying, from my experience, I think running a business or investment involves emotions. There is emotion of risk-taking, fear of losing money, and sometimes people are carried away by these emotions, eventually losing everything they built. How can one control emotions when in business or doing investment?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So, I guess emotions would speak to your personality, but I think in the journey for wealth creation, or be it business business planning or running that business, you need to take a very bold, intentional step towards, I would love to call it command your finances, but actually I think I want to say also command your emotions, so that they don't get in the way of the bigger piece of work that is ahead of you. So you take charge of that business. And how do you do that so that you actually tame your emotions, so to speak, so that they don't interfere with you or with the running of that business? I think one of the things I would say that would help you to do that is budgeting and forecasting. If you have a plan and you keep revisiting that plan vis-a-vis the progress you're making, and you take, you course correct as you go, you take corrective actions depending on the outcome of how things are happening vis-a-vis what you had expected, vis-a-vis a macro environment that you're also not in control of, then you will feel at least that you're in charge of the outcomes that are coming through. Because the truth is, running a business is not an easy thing to do. It takes courage. It takes a certain level of commitment and confidence in believing that the goods or the services that you're offering will definitely generate a return. And I think that's what we are all talking about here, that these are your drivers, because at the end of the day is bottom line. How much did you net take home? How much did you bring home? That's the bottom line. So the journey towards that then needs to be very calculated, so that you're able to make conscious, intentional decisions that can also, mean pulling out. And the right time to pull out then becomes very critical, so that you don't continue immersing yourself into a business idea that is not necessarily turning around. Of course, there's what we call a break-even period. A break-even here meaning the capital that you have invested in, how long will that take back, the period that it takes for that to pay back, so that you can now start generating or earning an income. And that is allowed, but then it cannot be so for too long. Some businesses do it a year, others, I think maximum I would say 2 years or so, in terms of actually assessing whether the business is viable or not. But those are the things you need to consciously keep checking, and you have to be bold at it, so that you can make bold decisions that will help you not to sink in more cash that will just go down the drain, and be able to pull out if you really must, or to look for a partner to reinvest with into that business or something like that. Taking the right decisions on the go. So I would say it's courageous decision and deciding to tame those emotions, so that you can be very focused on the decisions you need to make to ensure that your business runs. But forecasting, planning, cash flow management, all the things that go with ensuring you're checking the health status of that business, of that entrepreneurship jig that you have, will be critical to help you separate, I would say, emotions from facts, and make the right decisions at the right time. A timely decision can save you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caroline, for that. And I have a couple of questions that I will cobble up together for Eric to respond to. And one of the question is, what advice would you give on long-term investments? That is number one. Then the other one is, Eric mentioned about HISA and Kenyan Wall Street in terms of helping wananchi to learn products for stock investments. How do young people reach out to you? And then the third question is, how can one save or invest through securities with a small allowance? I think all of them are related.
Okay, I think I'll start with investing for the long run. How do you invest for the long run? So I think it depends on, I see it as, look at your cycle of competence. What do you understand? So, for example, for me, I understand the technology and the media space. I don't understand, let's say, what do I call it? Let's say manufacturing. So looking at investing for the long run is essentially look at what businesses or sectors do you think in a couple of years they're performing very well, and then how do I get in early, and then reap those profits or opportunities much earlier when these sectors or businesses perform very well. So assuming you are keen on say the telecommunications industry, look at are we in the early stages of mobile money or people adopting the telecoms services? Do you think they'll be performing much better in 10, 20 years, or depending on what's your long-term view, or how do you describe long-term? That can be 5 years, 10 years, or whatever. Then invest much earlier while people are trying to get in, or at whatever point. Then in the long run, when they perform very well, you get a piece of those profits. In terms of what we do at HISA and how someone can easily get into the stock market. So we began as a financial news publication, but then we realized a lot of companies, financial institutions wanted to develop technology solutions around this space. How can they digitize for people to make it easier to invest in the stock market, to invest basically in the financial markets? So while we were doing the publications, we did a few software projects for a number of financial institutions. So we learned, we got at the core of it, essentially, what were these people struggling with? So essentially, after doing that for a while and running the publication, we had some knowledge, my team. So we are a team of software guys and analysts or journalists. So what we did at the time is we said, why don't we build a solution that can enable these people, in as much as they come consume our content, how do we make them, how do we enable them to easily access the market? Because we understand the system, we understand the regulatory side of things. We are partners, so that's what we've been doing. So we've been working on a mobile app called HISA app. It's live on Android and iOS at the moment. We are in the early beta testing period. So essentially what we want to do is we want to give people or the normal man access to invest in the stock market. So at the moment, it's live. You can get access to news from Kenyan Wall Street and other publications. There are a number of podcasts that we do in-house, basically to help people learn. We've integrated with the market data from the local market, and the plan is basically to allow people to invest through the app. We are partnering with the regulated financial institutions. So our plan is not just the local market, but at some point we'll include other stock markets as well. So in terms of how that works, I think that it's much easier through the app to, once we make the ability, we enable the ability to invest, which we are at the moment trying to integrate. It will be easier for anyone to get access to the market with as little as 200 shillings, with as little as 500 shillings. So it's something that's in the works. Then in terms of how to reach out, I'm very active on Twitter as Eric Asuma. Yeah, I always respond to all my notifications or inquiries.
Thank you very much, Eric. And I also have a couple of questions that I want to direct to Caroline that are related to banking. and I think I'll put them together so that you can try and respond to them at once. So one says, it's anonymous. Hello, great webinar, giving and talking to us about real-time issues hindering financial stability and freedom. Kindly, could you give your say? Is it advisable to have different bank accounts? Say you have an account for salary, maybe another one for savings, another one for emergencies. Thank you. I think this is a young person who is trying to figure out how do I channel my different resources. And then the other one is coming from a gentleman called Eric Oholo, and he's saying, advise, not Eric, sorry, Kinyua. He had said, can you expound on compound interest? I think we didn't quite address it. So it's come up. And then finally, there's a gentleman called Sam Kariuki, who is asking, talk to me about mortgage, how it works at Absa. So probably you can give just general principles around the mortgage product. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for those questions. Maybe let's start with the first one, addressing my thinking around the holding of different accounts. I always say there is no one rule that fits all, so you kind of pick what works best for you. Because if I may share a little about my journey into savings, you know, because it was such an intentional thing I needed to do, for me to better save, I had to ensure that the savings were going into a separate account that did not have a debit card. So that there is no way, even in the heightened feeling of wanting a pizza, I would be using that money, you know. But really that was just on a light note. I think it would be nice, and especially to help you monitor you know, how you're progressing, I would say, in the wealth creation journey, because really those are the baby steps that you take towards that journey. To have, yes, your salaried account, maybe put a standing order that goes into a savings account, so that even through that savings account, which is not transactional, meaning you're not allowed to have too many withdrawals from it, you can start earning, you know, a relative rate on interest. So you'll start earning a little interest over and above what you're saving, and that helps you to build onto your incomes. And having any other separate account that you'd wish, maybe be it for emergencies, you can also build that on the side. So I think it would be advisable if for better management of your personal finances, to be able to separate that, so that whatever is left in your main account, and I'm thinking here main account would be where your salary goes into before it's channeled into the different accounts, then becomes what is available for use. And also that becomes very good, because if you think about it, and I'll give you a real life scenario, let's say you're paid on the 30th. So you're always assured by the 30th of every month there is money in your account. Then you can ensure you set aside a standing order, say within the next 3 days, so that money quickly gets channeled out into that other savings account, so that whatever is left is actually what you know is always available for your use. So you'll have calculated it in such a way that it meets your essential needs, you know, be it the food, the house rent, your electricity and other bills, so that you can be able to also meet your obligations in that regard. So it would be advisable. I think it's a good tool. And of course, if for us from an Absa perspective, if you visit any of our branches, you know, you will definitely be guided as to the right products for that. And even as you build on that savings account, you get to some considerable amount, you know, happy for you to fix that into a fixed deposit. Again, I said these are baby steps to help grow your money, so that it grows considerably into something that you can now say, let me put this as a down deposit to that mortgage, which I'll be talking to in a short while, or to that purchase of land and things like that. And you can also use it when you're applying for a loan, because you find sometimes when you apply for a loan, you're not necessarily given everything in full. So where you're given a portion of that loan, and you need to put in a deposit, whatever you've been accumulating then comes into play and plays a big role for you to be facilitated. Now, when we talk about mortgages, of course, we do offer the mortgage product as part of the products we sell here at Absa. So there will be various considerations, you know, that will be looked into in just trying to assess. And one of them will be, you know, whether you're doing a purchase or whether you'll be doing a construction. But I think in most cases when we do mortgage loans, it would be purely for purchases. So you're purchasing an already existing unit. So would definitely look at the value that you're purchasing that house at vis-a-vis the valuation of that particular property, be it a standalone bungalow or mansionette, or be it an apartment, so we get that valued so that we can consider that. And then in terms of your income, because that will be the determinant that speaks to your eligibility to be able to afford, say, a 10 million unit or versus a 20 million unit, we'll look at your debt service ratio, because we need to consider, are you servicing other loans, so that we ensure that we don't burden you with loan repayments, that you cannot be able to accommodate, because remember, there is the basic needs that you must meet on a daily basis. And so if, for example, employment income is your main source of income, then we will look at your employment income and ensure that your debt service ratio, I think, is about 62 to about 67%, depending on the type of customer that you are. We will look at that to ensure that, we have also not set you with a burdensome loan that you will struggle to pay. Because remember, a bank is looking at it from an angle of your ability to repay. So we will assess you from that angle and see, can you actually be able to afford this? So remember, if you have, say, a credit card and you have a personal loan that you had taken, with the same institution or other types of loans, all those will be lined up, and we'll compare that to, your disposable income from a debt service ratio to see whether you can accommodate the repayment for that mortgage, and thereby then be advised appropriately. And sometimes you will find that you'll be financed 100%, or other times you'll actually be financed a portion based on what we will see as your credit appraisal report output once we are able to put all those things together. There is a functionality that also comes into play with respect to your valuation. I think I'd mentioned that. And of course, from a security perspective, because that will be the security that the bank will hold, you will find that such a property then will also be charged to the bank. So in this case, the property will be charged to Absa Bank, so that in the event, and that is not our prayer, but in the event there is a struggle, of course, the bank needs to feel that the funds are secured, because remember, a bank is an intermediary, and we use the deposits that we receive to be able to on-one lend, to anybody who requires that lending facility. So I hope that has painted a picture for you as to some of the things that we look at.
Thank you very much, Caroline, for addressing that question. A number of questions coming through, and our promise is we will try as much as possible. We have very little time remaining to the close of the session. I want to direct this question to Sheba, which says, as a young person, I want you to encourage this young person. As a young person who has finished campus and waiting for God's grace, I hustle, but I don't get enough money for me to save. Sometimes I make losses in my car business. Saving is a challenge in this age, yet we are supposed to save from our younger age. Please advise. So this is someone who is looking to be inspired.
Great, good job that you're not just sitting, waiting for something to happen, that as you wait for God's grace, you're doing something about it. You've talked about you've called it your car hustle, and you're getting some small income. So one of the things I would like you to do today, for example, if that as soon as you take your pen and paper, is to really find out, what is this business I am currently running at the moment? And then number two, where are this particular business I'm running, where is money going? Because sometimes the reason why we make losses is because we did not price our services or our products properly, based on the cost of bringing those services or goods to the client. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, that one of the mistakes I made when I was running one of my businesses is I realized later that I wasn't making good profits, or sometimes I was even making losses. When now I went and did my homework, I realized there are certain elements or costs I had not considered. Have you been able to consider the various costs that go? For example, if you're going from maybe your place to town to collect these things, have you put down transport costs? Have you been able to find out how much you buy from your supplier? Things like this. So by the time you're selling this product or by the time you're offering this service, you have already seen, you know, am I making what I need to make, or have I priced what I need to price? So that is at the point of your business. There's also something that you've said is that saving is a challenge. Based on the money that is coming in, that becomes your income. Maybe it's now about time for you to think, do I need to get a little bit more clients at the moment because this is a business I'm running and it's my main income generator, so that I'm able to meet my expenses? And also have a look at your expenses as well. Do you know where each shilling is going? Sometimes what we have also seen at Centonomy, as well as even as a coach, is I've seen many people when they're doing their budget, they just think about the big ticket expenses. For example, they think about rent, they think about the utilities, but they don't think about the other small amounts. We call them small, but they end up accumulating to something big. So look at your expenses and really see, am I spending in the right way? Are there some opportunities that I can take up so that I can reduce? For example, I have one client who realized that they used to spend so much money on transport, matatus. And one of the things I told them, go do some homework and find out if there's a way to reduce your transport expenses. And they told me, Shaba, there's a proposal I have. Maybe could you hear it and tell me if it's working? And they told me, they said, they realized if they leave home a little bit earlier, like at about 5:30, I know that's really early, but if they leave home at a little bit at about 5:30 a.m. and get to town for them to do what they need to do, they were saving 50% of their transport cost. So you see, this person now decided, because I need to finalize what I'm doing with they were dealing with a loan, and they were trying to look for extra money to pay that loan. So they decided, you know what, I'd rather be getting to work a little bit earlier. So there are certain sacrifices you might end up having to take so that you can reduce some of those expenses. Going forward, there's also another trick I want to share with you. And it's a trick that Caroline has said. We usually say, pay yourself first. What does this mean? As soon as your income comes in to your pocket or to your bank account, there's usually this urge of paying rent, first paying all the bills first, and then ile itabaki ndio you invest it. Whatever remains is what you're going to save. We are saying, let us change our mindsets and pay ourselves first. So you can say, immediately I have my hustle. I realize today I have made 1,000 shillings or 600 bob. I can tell myself, 60 bob of this 600 bob is going to my savings. I can put it in one of the savings account that I currently have. And then now be patient. Every day you make sure you do what you can. So pay yourself first. That is, make sure that saving lives before you've even paid everyone else. And then what remains, you figure out how you're going to pay everybody else. It even helps you to start managing your expenses even better. Also, your current position is challenging you to think about other ways to increase income. It's also about time for you to start thinking, do I also want to consider employment as an option? Can I start looking, because I've gathered ABCD types of skills, how is my CV? Does my CV properly communicate the value I am ready to offer a business? You know, there are very many people also who are saying they have not been able to get jobs because there are no jobs. When you have that mentality of no jobs, even when a job is there, you will not be able to see it. So it's also about time for you to go and have a look at your CV and make sure it is updated properly, that it's talking about the value that you're offering, and start now actively looking even as you continue with your hustle. So I can encourage you that there's still a lot of work to do, but when you're patient and consistent and you see where your money is going, you'll be able to start seeing some light.
All right. Thank you very much, Sheba. I have really enjoyed this session. I want to believe that you have drawn lessons that, like I have. Some of the things that I have picked in this conversation is the 4 disciplines of finances budgeting as a lifestyle, saving as a habit, investment as a growth enabler, delayed gratification as your spending philosophy. Every shilling is a seed, so plant it and grow it. The other one was you either start a business or you invest in one. Then stocks allow you to own a big piece of the businesses that you really admire. The other one that I also picked is don't waste your time, invest it and invest it wisely. Then there was another one. What are your non-financial assets and how can you begin to monetize those ones? And finally, there is opportunity in your expenses. What opportunities do you have to begin to improve on how you're handling your finances? I want to believe that you found this webinar valuable and that you will take time to go down there on the Ready to Work link. And if you have not been able to do the course, it is free, it is online. You do that because it is going to really empower you with skills that are going to help you to get into the world of work well. Look out for our next session. I am so excited. In the next session, we will be talking about another subject and we will be sharing with you information regarding that session ahead of time so that you can be able to plan to attend. I see a lot of questions have come through. We will take time to give appropriate responses to those questions and share them with you. Other than that, I am very excited and I want to thank you for finding time to log in to our webinar today. I also want to take this opportunity to thank my panelists, that is Caroline Wambugu on my extreme right, Erica Suma right next to her, and Sheba Njagi. Thank you very much for finding time to join us in this discussion today. Other than that, I want to thank the Ready to Work team, that is Absa Bank Kenya PLC, for making this possible, and I want to believe that it was something that you really enjoyed. God bless you.